Hi, I'm Richard Walker, Chairman of Bywater and Executive Chairman of my family business, Iceland Foods. We employ 30,000 amazing colleagues, and this is my duvet flip.
Do you think people prejudge you?
Totally. That's why I moved out to Poland. I was like, screw you, I'm going to show the world I can succeed on my own account.
What did that shop floor teach you that year?
Appreciate just how damn hard our amazing 30,000 colleagues work day in, day out.
What's been the hardest day working at Iceland?
You can really utilise that no. You can use it as the biggest possible motivator.
What do you think has been the real invisible success in you?
Only now am I thinking like, yeah, I've got a right to be here, I deserve to be here.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
Hi, I'm Richard Walker, Chairman of Bywater and Executive Chairman of my family business, Iceland Foods. I'm feeling super excited to meet Jack, sit down and have a good chat. I'm excited to talk about entrepreneurship, inspiring the youth into business, and also educating a bit about what it is that we do and how business absolutely is a force for good. I said yes to coming on Duvet Flip because you guys kept hounding me, that's why. I haven't met Jack before, so I'm super excited to meet him, and I think I'm just looking forward to having a good old chinwag. If there's one thing that I hope people take away, it's that business absolutely is a force for good. Hey Jack, let's go.
So Richard, welcome to my duvet flip. How are we?
I'm good. I'm super excited to be here. It's an amazing place. It's inspiring.
Do you like it? It's not bad, is it?
It's super cool. And I've been very well looked after. Thank you.
Well, that's because of the brilliant team. It did come as a blank canvas, and obviously we're starting to make it what it is.
Yeah.
And it's nothing more than having your own space.
Yeah.
Because you can rent a studio, but it's not the same because then podcast number 2 goes in there, 3, 4. But it's just nice having your own space. But I tell you, this table to get it up the stairs, it was
They didn't have to crane it in through the window.
It was a curb delivery. I didn't see the small print. And then trying getting this up, I tell you, Leon and I got it upstairs. I tell you, that was a day and a half worth of work. These two, the two that you can see in the background as well, they purposely had a day off that day.
Oh, I see.
They didn't have to lift anything.
Well, it was worth it. It's a lovely table.
But you know, enough about the place and the table. This is about you. We're going to talk about proper EPs and everything in between. Where do you want to start? First, I want to go back to your first job because I always ask this question, no matter who the guest is.
Yeah.
Because I think the first job is quite important when you're starting out because it teaches you something. But also, I love the guests to then reflect back to think, what would they be telling their younger self if they were to go back in that job now? So what would you're looking at young Richard, he's in his first job. I want to know what it is, but what would you be telling him and what did you learn on that job?
I was working in the local restaurant. It was called Frog Manor. It's closed down now. But it was great, but it was more about learning how to talk to people, how to deal with people. It's kind of front of house and waiting on tables, pouring drinks, that sort of thing. It's run by this amazingly eccentric guy who owned the establishment and ran this restaurant for years. It was great. But I think, the main kind of learning there was just about customer service, you know. And I think if you can deal with people, we were talking about this before, you know, with a smile, you know, and bring that kind of sense of joy to a job, which, you know, 99% of most jobs are tough, right? But if you can engage people and be engaging yourself, it makes it so much better.
And part of that is all around customer service, part of that's all about communication, right?
Yeah.
And knowing how to communicate. What's your you've obviously done a lot of communications, you've been on TV, in the press and everything in between. But like, what makes a good communicator?
I do think about this, and I've had good times and bad times in terms of my communication skills, and it is when I'm at my most authentic, which is when I'm at my best. It's not about being super polished or not saying the word which I say all the time. It's just about just being yourself and being true and real. And I think people see that, you know, especially with business people. And the moment you're disingenuous, you know, the moment you're perceived to be someone who isn't telling the truth or is trying to hoodwink someone, that's when you lose the room and ultimately you're a bad communicator.
And do you think people prejudge you?
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously
Yeah,
Iceland food. Your
Yeah.
mum and dad started it.
totally. Yeah, and
What does it make you feel?
motivated to kind of show them, you know. I mean, that's why I moved out to Poland. I was like, screw you, like I'm gonna show the world I can succeed on my own account. First day I joined Iceland, I remember there was a boss of a very successful FTSE company who my dad knows loosely, but he did this big newspaper interview because he just floated his company. And in it, he was like, yeah, you know, I'm worth hundreds of millions now, but I'm not going to give my kids anything. You know, they've got to do their own thing. And he said, I mean, look at Richard Walker. He'll always just be Malcolm's son, you know. And I remember that, and I was like, right, I'm going to show him, you know. And then I almost printed out and stuck the email on my wall, because a few years ago, Dad texted me and said, someone's just said, are you Richard Walker's father? So, yeah. But it does. But I think also it's quite, in a way, it's quite easy to endear yourself to people if you're just yourself and normal. So when I started at Iceland, I didn't go straight to head office. I did a year work in shops in London, in Greenford and Swiss Cottage and places like that. Best year of my life. It was very humbling because you appreciate just how damn hard our amazing 30,000 colleagues work day in, day out. But also, it kind of just taught me, just roll your sleeves up. I mean, you know, I wasn't the undercover boss. Everyone knew who I was. And it was awkward for maybe, you know, the first 10 minutes. And then it's like, oh, fine. He's banging out Frozen. He's getting in the cold room. He's driving the van. He's on the checkout. He's one of us. Fine. And I made friends for life that year. It was absolutely brilliant. Any boss and any politician should spend a year working in Iceland. That's what I think.
Well, I'm sure we can get some of them in there. Yeah? I always say you can't understand the top floor. You don't understand the shop floor.
Exactly. Yeah.
What does the shop floor? What did that shop floor teach you that year?
I think you know, I talked about being humble because it is a really tough job, and I think often it can be underappreciated. But also you appreciate sometimes the big decisions that we beam down from our ivory towers are stupid and make people's lives harder. So every decision we make, every single thing we do from head office, or should I call it a store support centre, you know, should be based around making their lives easier. But ultimately I learned about the kindness and the camaraderie and the power that can come from teams. So at Iceland, we control centrally all the pricing. We control centrally where everything is put around the shop. The store manager really has very little autonomy in terms of being a shopkeeper. However, a good store manager can put 20% on the sales. And you think, well, how can they do that if everything's centrally controlled? And they do it through the power of teamwork, motivation, camaraderie. You know, and I really got to understand what that means and what that looks like in reality on the, you know, the streets of Greenford and Swiss Cottage. It was great.
In terms of being a leader, do you think everyone can be a leader, or does it take, like, we talked about off camera a bit about being nice versus being kind, and I think we have the same views here. Like, what makes an effective leader?
Yeah,
when
I
you're
think,
like leading 30,000 people.
Yeah, and you can't individually manage all of them. I think the key kind of answer to your question is not everyone can be a leader, but most people can be a manager. But who really leadership is something different than managing. You know, anyone can like say you do this, you know, but can you actually get them to want to do it? Can you get them to charge over the hill for you and have fun doing it? And I think that motivation and inspiring people when, you know, we're not the highest paid employer in the world, and yet we've won the best big company to work for twice. This year we were the only food retailer on the list, the Sunday Times list of the biggest companies. That's as voted for by our colleagues. And we're by far the biggest company on the list as well in terms of size of organisation. And one of my favourite stats about it is, one of the questions is, how well do you think you're paid? Not how much are you paid, but how well do you think you're paid? We came top, Goldman Sachs came second. So it's not necessarily about managing people, chucking them, loads of money and they'll do what you want. It's actually about making them feel like they're part of something. And I think that's really the essence of leadership.
What's been the hardest day for you, like working at Iceland? Has there been like really tough days that you can share, which are not personal? Like, what have been some of the hardest days? Because it's a hard job, right?
It is hard. Like, retail is relentless. The UK food retail industry has got to be one of the most competitive in the UK. Our margins are razor thin. It's ultra competitive. Customers across the road to save a few quid. So it is really tough, and it doesn't always go well. But and because of that, you have many bad times. But sometimes, I mean, we had a campaign on palm oil, and it's quite a long story, but I'll try and summarise it. But I went to West Kalimantan in Indonesia, and I looked at the consequences of what palm oil is doing in terms of tropical rainforest deforestation, and I decided I didn't want any palm oil in my own label products. So we became the first retailer in the world to remove it. It took 2 years, took loads of lateral thinking, almost like rediscovering mass-scale food manufacturing without palm oil, which is a vegetable oil, which is in 50% of all supermarket products. So that's great. But I put in this deadline of the end of 2018 to be palm oil free. We got to the end of 2018, and there were 16 products left out of 450 where we hadn't removed it. So we decided that we'd take Iceland off the label of those products, because my pledge was, if it's got Iceland on the label, it won't have palm oil in. Done. Fast forward 2 weeks, the BBC have got this big gotcha moment saying he hasn't removed palm oil, he's just removed Iceland off his own label. And they kind of set it up like I was trying to dupe people. And I kind of realised that, sharing the journey and communicating the highs, the lows, and some of the challenges is like so important, basically.
And why was you so obsessed with taking palm oil off the products? Because you could have been like, it's in 50% of all products in supermarkets. But why was you determined? Why did you go out and look at it, and what was it in you to make you want to be moving it forward?
Well, I would say, but what is business for? And it's much more important than the old doctrine of just being there to enrich your shareholders. And I say that as one of the shareholders. We're a taxpayer, we're a community, we're a philanthropist, we're a profit centre, but we provide high quality, affordable foods that I'm really proud of to people on a tight budget. So we're many different things to many different people. And one of the things that we've got a long, proud history of is being a corporate campaigner. So 25 years ago, my dad decided he didn't want genetically modified ingredients in any of our products. He came up with the phrase Frankenstein foods. So he was laughed at the time, and then everyone followed. So we've always had this kind of history of doing stuff like that. We were the first to say we were going to remove plastic from our own label packaging. We've done stuff on palm oil, but it's not just environmental concerns. We've done a lot of social campaigning, particularly as the cost of living crisis has really dug in. We've done many things that I'm really proud of. We give out interest-free microloans to 30,000 families. We've lent over 13 million quid. And these are people who otherwise would be going to food banks, or they'd be falling into their hands.
You talked about this recently on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And otherwise they'd be going to predatory loan sharks, But in one way you think, well, is it really our job to do stuff like that? We're not a charity. But actually, I totally see it as it being our job, because we're a barometer of Britain. We've got 5 million customers a week, and we're there to serve them. And I'm there to talk out on their behalf, because we see and feel and hear a lot of the issues that people are facing. And if we can challenge that and help ourselves, then we do. Or if we can go down the corridors of power in Westminster and challenge politicians, then I will. And, that's why I go on Question Time and the like, because I want to give a voice to all of our customers who, some of them are really struggling. And I think the best businesses have an obligation and a right to speak out against their, on behalf of their customers.
Talking about Westminster, you took a path down Westminster.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Terrible. I realised it's quite. I just got it in my head that because we see a lot of these issues, and I wanted to help. I wanted to be a player on the pitch rather than a commentator on the sideline. So I decided to run to be an MP, and I jumped through all the hoops. But ultimately, after 2 years of handing out leaflets and knocking on doors and whatever, they told me this was the Conservative Party. They didn't want me, and I thought, I am a bit arrogant, but I thought, well. Surely I have a bit to contribute and a bit of kind of knowledge and skills to bring. But I kind of realised, and this is quite sad, that our political system is really set up to fail. What the parties are looking for is lobby fodder, people who'll vote and say and do exactly how the party wants them to. And ultimately, I kind of concluded they don't want people with real world opinions or experience of their own, because you're a loose cannon and you might not vote how they want you to.
So you said...
I said I'm done with that.
Done with it?
Yeah, I'm done
Did
with
it hurt you that you went through all that and then they wanted a cookie cutter version of voting and stuff? Did that hurt you?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I felt, I wondered what was wrong with me. But it's funny how things work out, because now I look back and think, thank God I'm not an MP. I mean, can you imagine it? And also I realised the power of business, because we've got more power and influence and control to help people, to change lives, to make a difference than any backbench MP. That's the reality. So I realised, focus on selling the milk at the cheapest price in the company, or focus on some of the brilliant over 60s discounts that we give to people around the UK. Focus on the stuff that makes meaningful, direct, impactful kind of impacts on people's lives.
In the moment, right? As well.
In the moment, exactly. So yeah, it's funny how things work out for the best.
So I believe failure is not fatal. Yeah, and whether you see it as failure, whether you see it as a moment of that didn't work, how does one pick themselves up? I want to get through in your mind in terms of okay, because for me I'd be like, right. We'll pause there because this is a friendly show, and it goes into schools. But for me, I'd be like, oh, what is wrong? And not prove you wrong, but use bunch of so and so. For you.
Well, I did then come out and back Labour, the Alternative Party at the last election.
That was your
So
that was your ace card. Yeah. But for anyone, whether it's obviously in this situation you had a stint of politics, but whether it's you didn't get the job at the interview, you've just been let go, there's something in your life happening, how do you pick yourself up? And everyone says around resilience.
Yeah.
What does that word mean to you, and how do you truly embrace failure, picking yourself back up, just moving forward? Because I know it's easier said than done, but for your mind, if a young person's here and they've just failed at something or they've had a bad moment, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, a lot of young people, they can think that if they fail once, that's it, and they give up. But the reality is 9 times out of 10 we fail, but we just keep going. And my dad's business mantra, and his kind of mantra in life, I try and hold dear to that, and it's never, ever, ever, ever give up, ever. And that kind of resilience, that persistence, that consistency to just keep trying is what's important, because everyone sees, particularly on social media, the glossy image of a straight line to success. It's never like that. It's never like that. And if I look at Iceland, we've been a public business, been a private business. Dad was kicked out. Dad's owned all of it, none of it. We've had profit crashes, we've had profit warnings, we've had runaway sales success. We've had all of it over 54 years. And many, many times you could have think, oh, you know what, just throw in the towel. Why are we doing this?
What's the point? Right?
What's the point? But, life is a caper, and you gotta keep going. And if something's worth chasing hard enough, then, it's worth sticking at it. I like a totally different analogy, but 2 years ago I summited Everest, and people say, how do you climb Everest? And I say, it's dead easy. You just put one foot in front of the other and you keep going and you chip away at it. And there was this, I'll tell you a quick story, on the trek to base camp, which is where you walk up to Everest base camp before you start the climb. It was like day 3 or 4, and I was homesick, I was tired, I was hungry, I was out of breath because of the altitude, and I walked past this amazing mountain called Ama de Blanc. It's absolutely magnificent, and its summit kind of projected up into the heavens. It's like the Matterhorn of the Himalayas, absolutely exquisite. I looked up and marveled at it, and then I had this really horrific sinking feeling when I realized that its summit was 3 miles lower than where I was supposed to be headed. And in that moment, as in many others, it seemed like utterly impossible, and I wanted to give up. But when I finally got to the top of the world, we didn't have long because it was so cold, but I remember looking down, like surveying everything beneath me, and I picked out this tiny speck, which was the summit of Ama de Blanc, miles beneath me. And I thought, yes.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Ever.
Persistence. Ever.
I like it. Well, you know what? You said I was a bit surprised. The only thing I disagree with you on right now is when you said you was a bit arrogant. You clearly left that at home today because you've come in so kind.
All right.
Great. So thank you. So Richard, in partnership with Compare the Market, we've got 2 questions around money. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So my first one is, what is your biggest money regret and why?
A few years ago, I actually lost quite a bit of money investing in something I didn't understand. And I think if you want to invest, you really need to understand it. Otherwise, just keep it in cash, basically. A lot of people now, they talk about Bitcoin and stuff like that, but no one really understands it. And I think you have to really be a master of whatever it is that you're looking to invest in.
I think that's a great tip. Understand what you're investing in.
Yeah.
Are you ready for my second question?
Yes.
What is your Simple's money tip to your 18-year-old self?
There's a book, very old book. I bet it's like 40 or 50 years old, and it's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And it's got loads of little like top personal finance tips in there. But one thing that really stuck with me is whatever you earn, how much or how little, always try and set something aside, And it's so easy to just spend what you got, but it's actually can be possible to budget correctly so that you're always just making sure at the end of each month you've got a little bit just set aside. And it's amazing the power of compound interest. If you keep saving and it keeps earning interest, you can build quite a nest egg without even trying.
I think that's a great tip. And that book is called?
The Richest Man in Babylon.
There you go. Cool. So Richard, I want to talk a little bit about your time in Poland.
Yeah.
So tell me, you just moved to Poland in a little office.
Yeah.
To set up a business, a property business.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When I was thinking of moving abroad, I wanted to do my own thing, surrounded by mum and dad and these amazing entrepreneurial tales. I knew I wanted to do my own thing. I knew I didn't want to just follow automatically in his footsteps. So I was very keen to be an entrepreneur, but I was looking at where that might be possible. In the UK, I was a commercial property agent, but it was booming. It was pre the great financial crash, and it was every building had like 40, 50 bids on it. It was mental because money was so cheap. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to get a foothold starting up on my own with no track record. So I thought originally I'll go to New York because I'd heard all about the property moguls there. And I remember a really successful guy in the UK, he said, he was from Birmingham. I'm about to do a terrible Birmingham accent. He was like, what can you teach them about property? And he was totally right. And this was a guy who's made a lot of money out of building houses in the UK. So I looked the other way and I looked to Europe, and Poland had just joined the EU, 40 million people, size of Germany, amazing people who'd been oppressed under communism for decades, and they were just so hungry for it. And it was like a gold rush, and it was such an exciting time to be there because for the first time in generations, people were finding their feet and making their fortunes. But I didn't want to try and do that from a distance. I talked earlier about really understanding what it is that you're investing in. And I knew that if I wanted to invest in commercial property and residential in Poland, you know, offices, retail, residential apartments, then I knew I had to live there. So I moved out there.
Did anyone advise against it?
Yeah, loads of people. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
What
You
are
can't
you doing?
speak the language. You've never been there.
And there you are off trying to set up a company.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? It was a bit of a caper. So yeah, I moved out there, and it was liberating because you know, as I said, no one knew who I was. I had no track record, but I just really liked the graft of that and the being in the dirt, you know, in the kind of grit of it all, and just really working my ass off to make it work. And I look back at those days, and I really put the yards in. You know, I was on a mission to prove something, and we built a great business over there. You know, quite a big property portfolio with a local management team, and ultimately we sold the business and all the properties, and we got to the end of it. And because it was loads of different properties and different companies, it was all complicated. It was over a period of time. And I remember doing the final calculating how much money we'd made or lost. And I got right to the end, pulled the handle, and we'd made exactly zero. So the whole thing was a total waste of time, years in Poland, except it wasn't, because it gave me the confidence, the experience, the skills, the contacts to go and do it all again in the UK. And importantly, I'd also sat out the worst financial crash in the last 100 years. And if I'd have been investing in the UK, I really would have lost money. But we came back with a lot of confidence, even though we hadn't made any money. And that's the thing about failure or things not going the way that you think they will. We weren't undaunted. In fact, we were like double motivated to then come back to the UK and go again, raise more money, you know, start investing over here. And it was just the right timing. The UK was just coming out of the financial crash. Things were really cheap and going up, and we hit it hard.
So you came back to the UK, you set it up.
Yeah.
And what did that teach you?
Again, it was a bit like we'd been out in Poland, so no one knew about our track record here. So we came back, and it wasn't easy, you know, because people were still licking their wounds and feeling sore because of the financial crisis. So there was a few years of finding our feet. And then we bought the old Costa roastery site in Lambeth. It's on the train as you go into Waterloo. And this was like a disused industrial facility. It was a bit of a punt. We didn't really know what we were going to do. And then we came up with this amazing pioneering idea to build a first of its kind, a mass timber office building, 60,000 square foot, be the biggest timber office building in the UK. It'd be the biggest net zero kind of low carbon building in the UK. And we had this vision. Everyone told us it was impossible, but we put all of our money into that scheme. And we were told we wouldn't get bank debt on it. We were told we wouldn't get insurance on it. But it took us about 6-7 years. And 3 months ago, we had the opening ceremony of this building.
Wow.
It's absolutely compelling. It's stunning. And now we've got major investment from a big Japanese company, and they want us to do this. You know, we've now got buying sites all around London to build apartments and office buildings all out of wood, which is pretty cool and a bit different to selling frozen peas as well.
It is, isn't it? Lots of no's. Yeah, no to insurance, no in getting bank loan, no to this, no, this won't work. How do you know what no's to listen to and what no's not to listen to?
That's a great question. And I'm not sure I know the answer to it, to be honest, because, you know, I do listen to advice, but you realise, I think, the older you get, the more no's you have, that just because people say it can't be done, you know, it doesn't mean it's impossible. And sometimes you can really utilise that no. You can use it as the biggest possible motivator you can possibly imagine to prove them wrong. You know, to try and achieve on your own account and prove the naysayers wrong. So sometimes the no's can be really powerful. Sometimes you need to listen to it because it may be a really stupid idea. But I think ultimately, you know, you're on your own journey and you've got to kind of fall down and make your own mistakes to learn.
Absolutely. And in terms of network, how important is having a network? You see it in books, you see it online. Build your network, have a network, but how important is it to have a network? And what is the true definition of a network, and how do you nurture networks? in a world that's become so shallow with likes and posts online?
Yeah, that's right. Because sometimes you think you know someone, you think they might be a friend, you think they might be a good business contact, and they're nothing. They're just someone who you don't even know, who might follow you on LinkedIn, and you happen to pop up on their algorithm every so often. So I think people can become obsessed with being networked and knowing as many people as possible, and it's not that. It's about utilising and knowing the right people who can help you get to the next stage of where you want to be. In some industries, being networked is more important, like in property or PR or whatever. It is important to get out there and know people. But in others, it can just be about, getting your head down and getting on and achieving what you want to.
And what do you think about, you see it time and time again, you've got like the worlds of Mr. Beasts in the world that's making hundreds of millions of pounds, and you can get I remember Candy, Nerds coming to me and saying, will you do a social post for 12 grand? And I'm just like, for like 20 seconds social media post. Lots of P's to sell then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
But what do you think of that world? And what is your advice to people who want to step into that world? Because not everyone makes it in every industry they go in. They think they will. But where are you seeing social media? Do you see it as a power for good? Is it making people more entitled? Where do you see it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because you're like an influencer on LinkedIn now, aren't you?
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah, you're doing really well. I love your stuff. Yeah, I think it's good. And
again, I just talk about what we're doing. With I suppose with a bit of authority, but from the heart. About our customers, some of the challenges they're facing, some of the stuff we're doing to try and help, some of the issues that I see, and I really enjoy that actually. Something you said in the question, you talked about making it, but. What is that? I don't think I've made it. We all have imposter syndrome, and I think you have to just keep going. There is no final destination. I don't think anyone, ever kind of wakes up and thinks, I've totally made it. If you stay grounded and true to yourself, it's just a journey that you have to keep kind of plugging away at. And I think social media can be super dangerous in that regard. The easy money that can come from 12k for a 20-second whatever. I mean, that's
some candy nerds.
Exactly. And I think maybe for people starting out or getting onto the kind of curve of success, there's a lot of temptation now. There's a lot of easy money or quick wins that might happen, but they could corrupt you in the long term. And I think being long-term greedy, knowing about the value of who you are as a person, your personal brand, what you're doing, the industry you're in, I think kind of trying to view that over the long term is really important, and not being too tempted by the short term.
I agree.
Yeah. You must get that all the time.
Oh, you know what? It's funny because you get loads of different stuff. People want coffees here and there. They want to come and look at my new youth solution, and then you're
like where to look.
Yeah, you don't. And I think that is. I had 27 minutes. It was 27 minutes with Simon Sinek, and he was like, right, let's break down what your mission is. And that was one of my early meetings that really narrowed me in. Go anywhere online, you will not find me trying to sell a Red Bull.
Yeah, trying to flog whatever the latest thing
flog
is.
This, flog that, because we've stayed true to who we are. Yeah. And I just care, do you know what I mean? And today's toothpaste will be tomorrow's.
Yeah. And guess what? As a result, you're more authentic. People respect you more, and I think there's much more value that can be created longer term by sticking to that, for sure.
But how do you then balance it between being authentic and being yourself and being kind, and then also standing up and saying, actually, you campaign? Yeah, which is the work that you campaign with Iceland Foods is amazing. How do you get that balance? Last year I reached 97 million people on LinkedIn alone. And I'm like, okay, one little thing, if I say this, if I say that. Yeah. But then I'm just like, sod it. You know what? At the moment, I'm a bit overweight. It's too many Malteser breakfasts. Yeah. Next minute, I've got Malteser knocking on my door, say, "Will you do an ad?" I'm like, no.
Yeah, but you know, it'd do your head in if you tried to appease or, you know, appeal to each one of those 97 million individuals. All you can do is be yourself, you know, and that's super powerful, you know. And I think you can be kind, but you can also be tough and be authentic all at the same time. You know, I don't think there's a tension there. So yeah, it's just, life is so short. And when I went on Everest, it was the deadliest year on record. 18 people died. And there was a guy on our expedition, his name was Peter. He was the first guy I met when I got to base camp. I used to sit down and have lunch and dinner with him. He'd tell me all about his work as a medic back in Canada and his plans to climb with his son when he got back home. He never did. He died at Camp 4. And something in that connection that I built up with Peter, who's not here anymore, it just made me think, like, God, life is so short. So you've got to be super passionate about what you're doing, or else you have no business doing it. You know, we're here for such a finite time, and I think it's really important that you pour passion and purpose into what you do, and that only comes from something that you really enjoy. And time is so short, so do not waste it.
I totally agree. I didn't think we'd be talking about the 4 Ps: passion, purpose, profit, and P's today.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. You like
the 4
it.
Ps.
Yeah.
Can I borrow that as a strap line?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, the 4 Ps. There you go. In terms of, like, I've got a few more questions, and then we're wrapping this up. I could spend all day with you. You know.
This has got it's
quite cool.
Chill out here.
But
admire the view.
It's not bad, is it? Your relationship with your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Entrepreneur, like, entrepreneurs, they get it in their bee and bonnet and then off they go.
Yeah.
Like, what's that been like? And how, like, it must have been really an interesting dynamic at times. Obviously, you love your dad to pieces.
Yeah.
But, like,
I thought sometimes people like to just sit back and watch the show, you know, when Dad and I get going. In fact, I thought of a podcast idea called The Walker Tapes, where we drink a bottle of wine, put a microphone in the middle, and disagree about absolutely everything. It would be great.
Where do I just subscribe? I'm on.
So yeah, like every father-son, you know, we have that kind of relationship. But I always thought coming into in fact, he discouraged me at the start, because the reason I switched from property to Iceland was 2 reasons. Firstly, Dad had bought the business private again, so it once again felt like a private family business. But secondly, my late mum was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and she was only 64 at the time. And it was super tough, and I suddenly realised this amazing family legacy. I've only got like a passing knowledge about it, you know, from the dining room table, and I really want to learn and understand about it. So I went to see Dad, and I had it all worked out in my head, and I said, "Dad, I'm going to join Iceland." And he's from Yorkshire, and he said, "Don't bother. Collect rents. It's much easier." And I don't know if that was like reverse psychology or what, but again, that was like, I'm going to show you, Dad. You know, I'm going to start in shops on the front line for a whole year. You know, then I'm going to do this job. And once I got into it, I was worried about what that dynamic would be like with Dad. But you know what? It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be working with him. And he's a great man. You know, he's achieved so much. But at the end of the day, he's my dad. And it's just nice to be able to be spending this time with him.
So when's the podcast starting?
You'll have to give me some tips.
I will. You know what? We'll set it up.
We need to get him in, but
yeah.
there'll be a lot of bleeps.
We'll bleep. We'll do when if this does really well, which I think it will. I know it will. We'll have to get you both on, because
that'd be dynamite.
That'll be so good. And you know what? We'll bring out the wine.
Oh, exactly. Now you're talking. Yeah, I'm in.
And I'll just sit back and I'll just watch, because I think that'd be really cool.
Hello, Otto Sergey.
Hello, Mr. Alexander. Are you looking for a credit card?
Oh, he's good. With Otto Sergey's handy credit card feature, He'll check your chances of approval before you apply, without impacting your credit score, taking the guesswork out of finding a credit card.
Simples.
Hey, that's my line.
I've only got time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether you say you've been successful or not, I don't think what I've achieved is it's 1% on what in your mind, because as entrepreneurs you do. I think you have been successful. I think you're doing really good at LinkedIn, by the way. A few tips I'll give you.
Oh yeah, please, yeah.
What do you think has been the real invisible success in you doing what you're doing with the property, with Iceland, with being a father yourself and climbing mountains and everything in between? Like, what has been the invisible success that people can't really see publicly?
I think it might not even be a positive force, but you talked about imposter syndrome. That absolutely drives me, you know, I guess I'm getting a bit more comfortable with it now, but Christ, you know, I'll be 50 soon. But only now am I thinking like, yeah, I've got a right to be here. I deserve to be here. But for so long, I was just desperate to prove to other people and to myself that I could climb mountains. I could start a property business. You know, I could grow it to massive scale. I could go into Iceland and run it well. And I think, yeah, that kind of hunger and that will to win, sometimes there is a bit of a darkness to that. And, you know, you've got to recognise that. And I think that's probably something that people don't see.
I love that. And I get, you know what, I get that.
Yeah.
I get it, because you just want to, when someone says no, or it can't be done,
Yeah.
or you do want to find a way
Yeah.
to say, actually, why not? Why can't it be done?
Yeah. And I'll show you.
Yeah. Final question. Are you ready?
Shoot.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I think at Iceland, when I look at what we do, right? We sell frozen food from shops. We deliver. You know, we've got a massive online delivery business. We're now international in over 75 countries. But what is it that we actually do? And what we actually do is improve people's lives. And I got the most amazing email from a customer. I get some terrible emails from a customer, and occasionally it's nice to get some really nice ones. And I pinned it on my LinkedIn so you can see it. But it was from the heart, and it was just a genuine email about everything we do as a company, making that particular lady feel respected, valued, that she can afford, you know, certain products that we sell, like restaurant quality food at great prices, and also speaking out on her behalf for different social issues or environmental issues. And I read this, and first I thought, that's a fake, it's too good. But it turns out it was a real lady, and we surprised her up in Glasgow recently. But secondly, I thought, that's why I get out of bed. That's why I flip my duvet and get out of bed and come to work in the morning, 100%.
I love that, and it was that email that I saw on your LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I
From
was.
Kaylee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I said, no matter what, hunt him down. Go to every single mountain, every single Iceland, find out where Richard is, and get him here.
And here I am.
There you are.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, I just want to say thank you for joining me on the show, for being yourself, for sharing your story. You know what? I really enjoyed this today. Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
And there you are.
Thank you. That's great.